good evening, good evening to the Millionaire by Morning listeners. We have a guest with us today that's going to be able to help you to spread your hustle, going to be able to help you develop your business more, can talk to you about marketing your business. This is a man who came from having a 9 to 5, regular 9 to 5 job to basically having to jump off the porch and start his own business. So basically, came up from necessity. I want to introduce you to the owner of Oxford Pierpont, Mr. Bob Hunter.
Thank you for having me. Very nice to meet you.
Good afternoon, Bob Hunter. I want to thank you for stopping by the show, first of all. This show is based on business, it's based on marketing, but more so than anything, it's based on the struggle and kind of the motivation that people have to dig deep down inside and find on the occasions that they don't want to, and just keep going.
Yep.
So you have that story to tell. Can you take us back to where you thought everything was looking, peaches and cream, and then all of a sudden it just turned to another direction?
Yeah. You know, now in hindsight, I look at things a lot more favorably than I did when it was happening, but that's always the case in a lot of situations. At the time, I had a job that I loved. I had my cozy little office, and I basically would just make stuff roughly every 90 days. No one no one really bothered me about anything, so I was able to freely create. It was just just very happy in my job, which not everyone can say. So it
Right.
was a bit surprising when I ended up losing my job because I actually went blind in this eye. That was February 29th, 2016. Ironically, we've got another February 29th coming up this year, so it's be like the first one since then. But yeah, I lost my job over that, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. Yeah, I was not necessarily prepared for it. I did not have the volume of savings that I would need to support the lifestyle that myself and my girlfriend at the time had. And so my knee-jerk reaction was just to do what I'd been doing in my job, which was creating things. Um, and I thought I was going to go get another job after that. So I just thought I was just going to, get by for a little bit, just have a little consulting thing on the side until I found another position to replace the job that I had. Obviously, that's not the way that things went, and it's now been what going on 8 years now fully since all
Wow.
that.
Okay.
So yeah, you never know what's in store for yourself.
You never know. And it's kind of strange because the way the direction that you plan on taking yourself,
Mhm.
um, it can go in a totally different direction.
Well, it was also ironic because, and little did I know, that later that year, that entire plant got shut down anyway. So
See?
all this stuff happened to me in April, specifically April 4th is when I lost my job that year. Before Christmas, they had actually shut down the entire place, which was a huge surprise to everyone, right? I mean, I had that job since 2012 at the time. So it was a huge surprise, but I was gonna lose my job anyway. Just didn't know
Right.
it.
Right. Exactly. That's it's crazy, man, because um if you think about just life in general, we live off of everyday cliches. Everyday cliches is kind of what it's the reason that they have grown to be everyday cliches. We take them, something as simple as everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
That's true. That's like so true. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times it send us on the path that we're supposed to be on, our destiny. When we don't have when we don't have faith, sometimes you have to be pushed out of the bird nest per
Yeah.
se, instead of leaving it yourself. So, okay, so all the fears and everything of starting your own business, did you just jump right into it, or how did that take place?
I wouldn't say fear because I always loved the idea of having a business anyway. It's just that until I had to do it, I didn't really have any rush to go do it. I was
Right,
too comfortable. I was very much in my comfort zone. So while I like the idea of, being my own boss, having my own business and, doing that whole set of things, technically my boss wasn't getting on my nerves to begin with.
right.
So yeah, so the motivation didn't kick in until it was something that I had to do. And then even after it became like, okay, so this is mandatory now, um, it was really about, all right, so I'm just gonna do this just long enough to go get another job. I was still in that mindset. And I explain this to my kid all the time. There are really two very critical types of people, right? They're the ones that are creating stuff and really driving the world, but then you still need the people to maintain stuff and keep the world running. And those are not always the same person. I was very much satisfied at the time with being the I'm going to keep things running, kind of thing. And it wasn't until I had to that it was like, all right, now I need to go create new solutions and I need to go create stuff. And now I've created stuff that's driving other people forward. So it just depends on which type of person you end up having to be in the moment. And now I'm the latter. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay. That's a good explanation.
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to ask you about the space that you're in,
Okay.
specifically location. You're in Atlanta, Georgia, am I correct?
I am. Well,
So,
be clear, everyone in Atlanta says that they're in Atlanta. We
yeah,
treat all of that. So we treat the entire metro. I'm technically in Conyers, Georgia. That's where I live, but it's all Atlanta.
I
If
got it.
that makes sense.
I got it. I got
Yeah.
it. So if you're outside of Atlanta,
Hmm.
right? You think of it as mass production, entertainment. Every show you turn on, everyone's in a big house or everyone's a famous rapper. So the concept is if you're in Atlanta, you can make it doing anything. You can walk outside and bump into the latest stylist or the latest entertainer or someone and just get your business rolling because that's where you go to be a black business owner. Let me put a word in front of that, a successful black business owner.
Yes.
So, would you say that that's the case as far
Uh,
as location is
a lot of
concerned?
stereotypes have their origin, in fact. And so, to an extent, that whole thing is very true. Um, it is a lot easier because there are, at least in my experience, there are a higher volume of people that are interested in business, willing to do business, and willing to help you with your business. That can be a pro and a con. So,
Right,
yeah.
right. I can definitely understand that. I 2 years ago I came to Atlanta for a conference.
Okay.
And I would have to say, been to a lot of conferences, been to a lot of places, but that particular conference, there is nothing like being amongst your people,
Yeah.
able to speak to your people, not having a code switch, and and kind of just do business. Like
Right.
that's a wonderful thing.
It's a very big thing.
I hear that Houston is kind of sort of getting to that where it's I would say more so community based
Okay.
and you have to be around like-minded people and people that have seen success before.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big reason that Atlanta is the reason that it is because someone can pull up next to you that either successful in their business or someone that you recognize came from a certain place, certain neighborhood, and now you can see their success.
Right.
Um, so speaking of that, you have worked with some pretty big names. I don't know, if it's globally. Do you normally work within your state or locally, or is it global?
From the start, it's been national. Then we started working in Canada, so we started taking
Okay.
clients there. It's almost always though been the United States, just border to border. Um, we do not typically do a whole lot of work internationally, but we do a lot of hiring internationally. And that's really important just because when it comes to the labor side of things, you don't necessarily have to have US labor for everything. And that is when we're getting to payroll, we're getting to the dollars and cents, and we're getting to profit margins, it starts to matter a lot where you're hiring people. And not everyone's going to like that, but it is just the fact that the numbers are better when you're hiring what you can offshore versus having to hire everybody inshore. So we operate internationally in that way. When it comes to actually servicing clients, they tend to be North America clients.
Okay. Okay. And your company offers business consulting, financing, and marketing services.
Well, yes, but we're actually in the process of reducing all of those services because, and this has a lot to do with the pandemic. And this is a big lesson for anyone who's in business. You have to be ready to pivot as the situations present themselves. We almost did not survive the pandemic, and that's for two reasons. Number one, we found a lot of success and profit in dealing with attorneys and dealing with mortgage brokers. They just simply paid the best. That's
Right.
just what it was. So if we're a company that's offering business development and consulting and marketing services, you want customers and clients that are a little bit further along, have the budget to make sure that they can pay for all those things, and will need your services long term. So at the time, our base price was 2,500 a month, 30,000 a year. Not everyone can afford that, and so that's why we niched down the way that we did. The downside to doing that, though, is as soon as the pandemic hit, the courts were literally closed. No one
Okay.
was in the middle of buying houses in 2020 in the pandemic, and so our services started to dry up. Not that people were canceling, but it was the favorite term was we're going to pause our services right now. You can only survive for so long on that. So it was March that it came to the US. I was in Thailand in January of that year and then made it back March 6th of that year. By March 20th, the US was pretty much starting to shut down
Right.
for the pandemic because it had made it here by that point. It
Right.
took me until June to recognize that, all right, this is becoming something that's going to be sticking around for a while. And so that's when we started pivoting into what is now grown into mybusinesscredit.com, where we are helping people get financing. My logic at the time was if everyone's telling me that they need money, I should probably figure out how to sell people money because the marketing is going to, slowly decrease over time. And I'm glad I made that decision because what I didn't know is that AI was coming next.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so whether I like it or not, my industry is going to be on a decline. So I'm glad that I made that pivot 4 years ago. And that's just where we are now. So our business is almost entirely focused on getting money into the hands of business owners.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Your website. And I was going to tell you, this is such a nicely laid out website.
Thank you.
And it lists your businesses, like all of the businesses that you offer.
Mhm.
So will you be changing this entire like makeup?
Yeah. So
And
that's yeah, that's gonna change. Right now, all the focus is on mybusinesscredit.com because we literally are pulling in a lot of services to make the platform really useful for people. So we've just closed deals with Equifax, with Experian, LexisNexis for the consumer reporting data. People would be able to get all of their credit scores, FICO and Vantage scores from all three bureaus. We are packing a lot into that platform. And so once we've completed those integrations and done all that stuff, and everyone's just really, really, really able to easily get funding through that platform, Oxford would only be really servicing people that are going to be talking about probably 2 million or more. Everything else would be siloed into my business credit at that point. Yeah.
okay, all right. And is that for any particular niche? or
Not for my business credit. So the goal is to help everyone. And we made it because the first thing I learned when pivoting into business finance
Mhm.
and moving away from marketing is there are so many business owners who have no idea what the parameters are for funding and for just being attractive to lenders in the first place, right? So many lenders will say, "Yeah, I'll happily give you $100,000 if you can only prove that you'll qualify for it and pay it back," right? And so when we talk about business administration, we're talking about basics like how are you keeping your books? Where is your business even registered? If I call your phone number, am I calling just your regular cell phone or am I calling an actual dedicated business line? Little things like that matter. And so, so many people, just because they don't really understand those things, that's kind of where we started. Like, hey, here are the basics. You can easily go on YouTube, you can go on our website, go to mybusinesscredit.com. We provide 150 fully animated videos where we teach all that stuff, and it's free. I'm not charging for all that. It's all basic information that you should be able to find on YouTube anyway. We just simply packed it into one place. And so from there, it's about helping people understand, all right, great. This is what your qualifications are. This is how you get money. This is how you grow your business. That's the big focus.
okay, okay. And
Sorry to
how will
point it
you?
like that, but so,
I get it. How will you market that? Are you doing direct sales, or is this like content creation?
no, we need 1 million monthly active users. There are 33 point sorry, there's 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. Roughly 43% of those end up trying to get some kind of funding over the course of a year. So that drops the market down to about 13.6 million as the target. We know that 85%, almost 85% of those users, of those businesses, will get declined for financing, right? So
Okay,
that's our market of 11.5 million users, right? All we're trying to do is get 1 million of those people to be our monthly active users. For our investor portfolios and stuff, we're really focusing on 100,000 paid users. The rest of it, totally free. So we're essentially building a platform where we are giving away all the most important information completely for free to 90% of the users who are going to be on that site. And it's because I feel very strongly about the fact that when I started my business, no one tells you anything, you know? And we're not talking about like, oh, you can just go to college and get the stuff. You can't. We're not talking about the same thing. In college, you learn a lot about running a business, but building a business still there's a lot that you need to know. You need to know about what lenders are looking for and what makes your business attractive, about what the qualifications are for some things, about what businesses are even disqualified for certain types of lending to begin with, about making sure that you're keeping your numbers right. For example, no one would say that, hey, you need to make sure you've got your bank rating correct. No one even knows what a bank rating is.
right.
That's just that's over 90 days. What is your average daily balance? Is it more or is it less than 10,000? If it's less than 10,000, you need to get it to 10,000. If it's more than that, then great, you have a low five or higher bank rating, and we can talk to you about that. But no one tells you that. They certainly didn't say that at Georgia State. So my point is, we are trying to make sure that we're providing people for free with as much information as we can so people can genuinely go build their businesses.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. That
Yeah.
is needed. That is
Yeah.
very much needed.
So that's what we've been up to. So just to answer your question about Oxford, Oxford is very important for larger companies, but there are 11.5 million smaller companies that just really need the help right now.
About those 11.5 million, um, going back to the reason that you're starting this, which is AI.
Yeah.
Do you look at AI as being a scary thing? Like for those, not necessarily for you, but for those 11.5 million people that think they're going to start business in the traditional sense when
No,
AI
because
is really here?
AI is no scarier than the automobile was to people who were raising horses. It's not about, it being scary or not. It's about whether or not you can recognize the change in the market. And it's either going to be something you can take advantage of, or it's going to be something that eats you alive. And that's 100% up to you either way. It's a tool, right? It's no different than a hammer being better than a rock for beating in a nail. It's just a tool. And if you are able to understand and utilize and keep up with what's happening with AI, you can get so much more done. I love AI. I use AI every single day. I make my employees use AI because it is a tool for getting things done faster. And it's funny because when I was a kid, I remember there were these things called encyclopedias, right? Would be entire bookshelves of them, right? And then we got what? We got Google, right?
Right.
And then from Google, we then got all these mobile devices and iPhones where you didn't have to sit and look for stuff on the computer anymore. The information was in your hand at all times, right at your fingertips. And so this is the next evolution of that, where we now have the information even faster. I don't even have to Google anymore. I literally have a button on my iPhone, just it quick launches ChatGPT so I can ask it anything. And so if you can understand that, it's like having something in your hands at all times that knows basically everything. Now it's up to you to utilize that power either to make your money, right? Or let it take your money. There's really no in between. So,
Yeah, that's
it's-
man, that's a sound bite that you just that explanation. It's a sound bite for those that are in fear.
yeah,
That's a heck of a way to look at it as just a tool.
it's just a
Uh,
tool. Yeah, it's not. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some people who it arguably could take their job, but it's also up to those people to recognize that there are other jobs that need to be done, and I just simply need to pivot. My assistant could easily have looked at AI as, hey, this is going to take my job. Because in fact, you noticed it. At the start of this call, there was a super normal AI that was ready to join the call and start taking notes.
mhm.
A year ago, that's what she used to do.
Right, right.
So so my point is that could have taken her job, but no, she now does other things for me, and she uses AI to the fullest to make her job easier. So it's just really perspective. That's all it is.
Perspective.
Yeah,
Perspective is huge, especially for this, especially the way that business is going.
it's an enormous opportunity.
Uh,
That's how I
yeah, I
look.
think so. So I kind of I do marketing. I just built a new website. I'm repurposing everything as well.
Okay.
And so as I was building the website, I was thinking, okay, the stuff that I do know how to do based off of AI,
Hmm.
I could just be a consultant for that alone. Like, whether building websites or whatever, not totally getting away from marketing, but
Yeah.
there's going to be people out there who still don't know how to use this stuff or don't have, like you say, it saves time.
Yeah.
But if you could build a sales funnel and then have the emails check GPT, you know, uh, build your email sequence.
We could
All
do
of
that.
this is, yeah, you can do that, and all of this is just, you can go build that. That's a business solution. You can
Yes.
actually go build that. So yeah, man, that's the way I'm looking at it as a huge
Stuff that
opportunity.
used to take weeks to do, like, can be done in a day. And that is just so amazing to me. It is the biggest opportunity for anyone who's paying attention that we've had. I would say that AI is equivalent to the initial dot-com boom all the way back in, the late 90s, right?
Oh
So
wow,
96, 97, you were having an entire shift in the way that people operate. And AI is turning into another shift in the way that people operate. In June of this year, so every year Apple does something called the Worldwide Developer Conference, WWDC. We already know that Siri is about to be its own ChatGPT, essentially. And it's going to be a little bit different because everything's going to be device based and it's going to be Apple integrated. So if you're paying attention to this stuff, you know what's coming. It is an enormous opportunity to position your business or even develop a new business that simply takes advantage of the tools. And I hope anyone watching this, right, if you are in business and you can think creatively, like, hey, I see all this AI stuff coming, let me not fear it, let me figure out how to make the money. There are 1,000 videos on YouTube right now that'll teach you how to do that. So you just
oh
have to
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, there's so many free webinars and people giving away
Yes.
the free technology. They
Yeah.
want you to be users or they want you to stay on their site all day long.
Yep.
So they're going to give you all the free information. It's a wonderful time to be alive, if you ask me.
I'm doing the same thing. So it is
Yeah.
exactly what you just said. So remember, I just said I'm looking for 1 million users. And then in the same breath, I also said I'm giving away all this stuff. It's because that's how you get monthly active users. So it's uh it's easy math.
You know what everyone is now. It's easy math. I tell everyone that comes on this show the path to $1 million, and I just work it from the end, going back, and then when
Mhm.
they hear the math, they're like, "Whoa, like I could do that." It's math. But I say all of that to say there's a there's a time span that, like you say, the dot-com boom, McDonald's, fast food was one.
Mhm.
Um, they're saying that this time span here is changing, like you said, it's basically changing the way society operates.
Yep.
Um, that is going to create the fastest amount and the most amount of millionaires that has been seen. And I don't know how many years it's been, but if people just go ahead and lock in, they'll be able to see, um, exponential growth in
All you
their
have to do is pay
business.
attention.
Yeah, in their bank accounts.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's you have to go ahead and jump in it now.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing to fear. And then the funny thing is this isn't even the end of it. We still have the robots that we have to deal with. So whether or not people are paying attention, it is happening. You have Boston Dynamics and they have a very versatile robot, but then Elon Musk at Tesla, they have the Optimus bot. And everyone laughed at the Optimus bot because it was just so early stage, and then they just released the version 2, which is just beautiful. And it is, I mean, they showed it picking up an egg delicately and just what it can do. And it's, you got to imagine, right? All the power of ChatGPT and all these AIs in the physical body of a robot, with the technology that Tesla uses as an example, just to empower self-driving and everything else. You're setting up a world where people will not necessarily have to do a lot, right? And so you've got to start thinking, okay, how can I still run a business and profit in a world like that? Do not make your plans for today. You'll fail
Yeah,
in a few years if you're only planning for what we currently live in, because everything is about to change before 2030. So, I mean, you're getting all the warning signs right now. So
definitely.
you've got a chance.
What's your advice? What's your advice to anyone who's like looking at it as you have given some advice, but for the people looking at it as pessimistic or in a sense, that's too much. I don't want to learn that, kind of like I guess the grandparents were when iPhones or when cell phones first came out. It's
Honestly,
nothing they really
yeah.
want to learn.
This might sound harsh or blunt, but my advice would be to move out of the way. Because at the top of this call, I said that there were the people who build the world, right? And then there are people that just maintain what's been built. And
Right.
it's okay if you are the latter, because I can go build whatever I want. I still have to have people running that every day. Otherwise, I still don't make any money, right? But if you are at this stage where you feel like you're feeling pessimistic about it, you've got the wrong perspective and you've really just got to move out of the way because there are people that see what's coming. They see the positive of it. They see it as a tool that is not only going to, uh, you know, make life easier for a lot of people, but it's also going to make their lives personally easier as they make more money. If that's not you, hey, there's nothing wrong with that, but you got to move out of the way because this is going to happen whether you like it or not. This is an opportunity for those who are wise enough to see it. And I just hope that the right people can expand their minds, take advantage of it, and move forward. It's a tool in the same way that a hammer is, and a hammer can either hit the nail or it can hit you in the head and be a weapon. Can't fear it just because it was used against you the wrong way. You got
Yeah.
to figure out how to use things to your benefit.
Okay. All right. And I hope everyone is listening to this podcast is wise and get all the education and information that you need about AI and ways to move forward. Um, Another question I had, and we'll wrap up, is will you be keeping your? I think you hire um, from overseas, or
Oh
you
yeah.
have a staffing agency. Will you be keeping that part of the? Okay,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely love having offshore workers. Don't get me wrong, it's not all rosy. There are a lot of challenges, but I love having offshore workers because you engage with a bigger variety of people, but you also can get a lot of skill sets that may not be in your immediate city. Um, Definitely not in your immediate country, but also the price points are just different, and that increases your profit margins. Let's say that I'm hiring a developer. Well, US employees, full stack developer, I mean, that's just really expensive. I'm looking at maybe nine, $10,000 a month for a lot of full stack developers, and rightfully so. It is not easy to be a full stack developer, but I can get that same thing done for anywhere from 2,500 to 10 to 5,000 a month, right? So I'm able to spend a quarter to maybe half of what I would have had to spend for the same type of job to be filled in the US. And again, not everyone like that. They're like, oh, you're shipping jobs offshore. When it comes down to the profit margins, it just is what it is. And that's what I have found to work for me. So we will be hiring indefinitely, especially as we are expanding. And I like learning multiple languages. So learning Urdu, learning Arabic, learning Tagalog and Hindi. I speak a little bit of those because I find that it's easier when you can at least show that you are engaging with people offshore
right.
in their own dialogue. No one expects me to be fluent in in those conversations, but little things like being able to, like say salamat, which is thank you in Tagalog, or Prub Shabbat, which is good morning in Hindi. Being able to say little things like that make people happy, and so it's fun. So
Okay, I can see how that goes a long way.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
makes
definitely.
happier staff. So
Yeah, yeah. And the main thing about it all, offshore, if you want to hire, nationwide, nation side, um, it's capitalism, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what it comes down to. So really, when you're running a business, you have to cut costs. You have to do what you have to do
oh,
for the
and
good
also
of
let's
the.
not forget, people like cheaper prices. They just do.
Yeah,
Right? So if
yeah,
I was able to reduce costs, that means I'm able to reduce my prices, and that makes people happier at the end of the day. So while everyone will always complain about how expensive things might be, no one's ever going to complain about being able to get a discount on something. And sometimes that discount comes from having cheaper costs of goods sold at the start of the process to begin with. So
yeah,
we've got to keep
definitely.
everything relative.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree 100%. Bob, where can people find you at as far as your website or your socials?
You can go to mybusinesscredit.com. I'm not really active on social media. I do have it, so it's usually at Mr. Bob Hunter, one way or another. Um, but yeah, mybusinesscredit.com. If you wanted to get a hold of me, there's a contact tab, and you can schedule a meeting, and we're happy to talk with you. Same for Oxford. If you go to oxfordpierpont.com/Bob, again, you can have a meeting with me and talk to me. That one might cost you, but you can talk to me. So,
Okay, man. I want to thank you. Like I say, you gave a bunch of verbal screenshots that, you're not on social media, but I'm pretty sure they're going to make their way on social media just through this podcast.
yeah.
And I have to say that you did drop gems and jewels for anyone that's listening to the show. I want to appreciate that. And I want to wish you all the luck in the world moving on forward.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem, Bob. Um, Thanks for coming on, and you have a great night.
You too.
All right, now. See you later.